Some men don't walk alone because they're broken. They walk alone because they've chosen power over approval, solitude over noise, clarity over comfort. In a world that glorifies constant companionship, where worth is measured by relationship status and external validation, there are men who step away, not to escape, but to evolve. These are not loners. These are leaders. Quiet, focused, and free. They don't chase. They don't need saving. They don't crumble when left in silence, because they've turned solitude into strength and silence into strategy. This is the rise of the stoic masculine, the man who builds in silence, who walks alone, not out of bitterness, but out of discipline, who doesn't fear emotional distance because he's trained to master his own mind. Men walking alone. Today, we uncover why these men are becoming the strongest, most stable, and most self-reliant force in modern life. We'll break the myth of loneliness and reveal how the man who walks alone often stands tallest. If you've ever felt out of place for choosing stillness, for seeking depth over distraction, this message is for you. So stay focused, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Let's walk into this truth together, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. Because being alone isn't a weakness, it's training. And you're not behind, you're just ahead in a different direction. One embracing solitude as strength. He is not afraid of silence. He does not keep himself busy all the time just for the sake of it. He does not run from being alone. He chooses to walk into it with full awareness of what it brings out. The man who decides to walk alone is not trying to escape anyone. He is simply choosing to face the one person he cannot avoid, himself. While others keep searching for distractions to avoid thinking, he faces his thoughts directly. He does not scroll his phone to feel better. He prefers to sit quietly, and that stillness gives him sharpness like a finely honed blade. In a world where solitude is wrongly seen as loneliness, he gives it new meaning. He is not waiting for someone else to complete him. He has already done the inner work to complete himself. For him, solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. The space between him and the world is where he becomes truly powerful. Clear in thought, stable in mind, and far from emotional disturbances. He doesn't pretend to be someone he is not. He does not act just to receive applause. He does not lower his standards to be liked. When he is alone, there is no one to impress, only the bare truth of who he really is. That is where clarity resides. That is where he meets his discipline, his doubts, his past, and he does not turn away. He studies it, he grows from it, and the more noise he cuts out, the stronger he becomes. Not by avoiding pain, but by converting it into strength. Solitude for him is not about being without people. It is about being surrounded by what truly matters: honesty, focus, self-control, and inner peace. While many people run away from silence, he turns it into his place of power. He is not lonely. He is sharp. He is not ignored. He is elevated. His calendar is not full of unnecessary things. His life is not surrounded by shallow company. He doesn't settle for random connections just to avoid being alone, because he knows even discomfort is training. Silence is the gym for the soul, and he goes there daily. He reads, he writes, he reflects. He takes walks not to kill time, but to listen to his own thoughts. Most people cannot tolerate that silence because they do not know who they are without noise. But this man, he has already met himself, and his peace is something he has earned through discipline, not through shortcuts. Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That is not just a nice quote, it is an instruction, a reminder that we must go inward, not to hide, but to become sharper. When the world expects emotional reactions, the man who is trained in solitude gives a thoughtful response. When others panic, he remains steady. When others hold on, he lets go. He does not merely accept being alone, he becomes stronger through it. Because when there is no one to save you, you must learn how to save yourself. And that's where the shift happens. Solitude is not something he tolerates. It is something he uses as fuel, as fire, as direction. He knows that the man who can stand by himself has a strength that nobody can take from him. That strength is not built on praise. It comes from routine, from choosing himself again and again, even when no one is watching. He is not waiting for outside validation. He is already walking his path, calmly, consciously, with full power. That makes him rare. That makes him a challenge to mediocrity. That makes him free. 2. Mastering self-sufficiency. He does not wait for someone to come and help. He does not expect others to carry his weight when life gets difficult. He does not ask, who will support me? He asks, what is the next step I need to take? In a society that often teaches men to depend on systems, on relationships, or on comfort zones, he chooses the other way. Not because he wants to be different, but because he refuses to remain weak. He knows that the moment you hand over your responsibility, you lose your power. So he takes it back, little by little, mentally, emotionally, financially. He does not complain that there is no one to fall back on. He becomes that person for himself. If something is broken, he fixes it, not because it's convenient, but because it is his problem. He does not manage his finances to show off. He does it to remain free. He keeps track of his time. He pays his own bills. He walks into difficult moments without asking anyone to cushion his fall. This is not just survival. This is mastery. And it didn't happen overnight. He earned it through every experience where nobody showed up, through every mistake he had to clean up alone, through those nights when he had no one to talk to, yet still woke up stronger the next morning. He does not expect life to become easier. He becomes sharper, more aware, more efficient. Because when there is no plan B, you either upgrade or you collapse. And collapsing is not part of his system. He learns what most people avoid. Basic things, real things. How to cook, how to maintain, how to manage. Not because it is glamorous, but because it is necessary. Every time he chooses to act for himself instead of waiting for help, his self-respect grows. Seneca once said, "Who is content with the least is the richest." That's not a message only for monks, it's guidance for warriors. The man who walks alone does not belong to luxury. He is not owned by possessions. He is free because he needs very little, not because he has nothing, but because he is strong enough to need less. And this is exactly where society misunderstands him. They think he is missing something. They ask, what is wrong? But the right question is, what has he built that others have not? Self-reliance, focus, inner calm. Most people panic when they are by themselves. They run to distractions, to relationships, to anything that lets them avoid facing their own mind. He doesn't. He stands alone. And solitude shows him what he is really made of. He doesn't avoid responsibility, he embraces it. Because every task, every burden he carries builds him further. A man who carries his own emotional, financial, and personal weight becomes powerful in a different way. He becomes someone others can trust, someone who does not move when pressure rises. Not because he talks the right way, but because he doesn't panic. And he doesn't do this once in a while. He practices it every single day. He wakes up knowing there's no safety net. And that's exactly why he becomes sharper. He doesn't need motivation from others. He has his own discipline. He doesn't wait for someone to rescue him. He has created his own framework. He doesn't rely on promises. He relies on self-commitment. That is the real difference. That is what makes him truly free. 3. Experiencing true freedom. He does not mix up comfort with freedom. He does not think that having multiple options means being free. He measures freedom by how few people he needs to answer to. He doesn't declare himself free just because he is unmarried or running his own business. Freedom, for him, is not a label. It is a discipline. It is not something to display on social media. It is something you practice quietly, through every decision, every boundary, every restraint you hold firmly. While most men stay tied to invisible ropes, loans, social validation, relationship stress, or the need to appear successful, he cuts all of them. Not because he dislikes people, but because he refuses to be anyone's property. He does not wait for permission to take his own road. He doesn't explain himself when he changes cities, steps out of a relationship, or walks away from a gathering that doesn't feel right. He respects his time the way a businessman respects capital. And that is what makes him unsettling to people who are addicted to approval. He does not live for reactions. He does not need to be constantly understood. His time, his energy, and his decisions are under his own control. That is not loneliness. That is a strength. Where others compromise their dreams to keep things peaceful, he holds his ground. Where people spend big to show off, he quietly invests in skill and substance. Where most are chasing temporary highs, he is building something long-term. brick by brick. Because he understands, real freedom is not about chasing feelings, it is about creating systems. He is not controlled by impulses. He disciplines his desires like a soldier maintains his weapon. When others get thrown off by emotional turbulence, he remains steady, calm, rooted, and focused. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." For him, that quote is not just wisdom, it is a daily filter. He asks himself, do I genuinely need this? Is this choice mine, or is it just something I was sold? The fewer his needs, the more powerful he becomes. And the more society tries to pressure him, get married by 30, buy a house by 35, build a perfect-looking life by 40, the quieter he grows. Because none of those checklists apply to him. He is not living by someone else's deadlines. He is living by his own direction. He does not run away from responsibility. He sharpens it. He does not act out just to prove he's different. He walks alone because his direction is already clear. That silence, that deep inner control, is frightening to those who depend on external feedback to feel important. But he does not fear silence. He uses it. He does not fight for control outside. He builds it inside. No chaos, no theatrics, just focused discipline. That is the real contrast. Many live under constant fear of being judged, rejected, or alone. They call it being social. But when the crowd disappears, they break. He doesn't. He has already faced that loneliness. He has already come out stronger. He has built his identity not on applause, but on values. So now, no one else gets to dictate his direction. He wakes up each day knowing no one is going to rescue him. And more importantly, he does not need them to. That is what real freedom looks like. Not because he has everything, but because he does not need anything that takes him away from who he truly is. 4. Cultivating purpose in silence. He does not avoid the question, he looks at it directly, not through noise, not through distraction, but through clear, honest introspection. What am I here for? Most men never ask this. They are too occupied with constant engagement, getting caught up in routines, societal opinions, and borrowed expectations. But the man who walks alone does not have that comfort. Silence doesn't let him escape. It holds up the mirror. No audience. No appreciation. Only him and the weight of all that he could be, but is not, yet. Most people run from this space. He stays. Because he knows, if you avoid this question, you walk blind. If you answer it, you walk with fire in your chest. He doesn't try to stay busy for the sake of it. He ensures that everything he does is aligned. Each action becomes intentional. Each decision reflects his purpose. While others rush toward meaningless goals, he slows down and checks direction. People may not understand it. He's okay with that. He's not trying to be understood. He's trying to become unshakable. Because once you know your why, you stop being confused by the what. While others wander, he builds. He doesn't need a loud reason to take action. Silent intention is more than enough. He doesn't rely on praise to stay on track. He looks at the results, and results take time. That's where most people give up. They stop because it feels too quiet. They stop because no one is watching. He keeps moving because that very silence is the signal. It means he's getting closer. In that silence, there are no quick wins, only discipline. No rewards being distributed, only routine and self-direction. That's why he becomes a rare kind of dangerous, not loud, not flashy, but consistent and driven from within. His motivation doesn't come from hype. It comes from long hours of being alone with himself. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Most people get that backwards. They copy others and hope that identity will form later. But he doesn't fall for that. He decides who he wants to become, then trains for it. Every day. He doesn't float from one task to another. He locks into each one. There is no later in his vocabulary, only now. When the outside world becomes noisy, he turns inward. Not to avoid, but to sharpen. Because he knows all men who achieve greatness are shaped in moments no one else witnesses. While the crowd scrolls endlessly, numbing themselves through external validation, he sits with questions that are uncomfortable but essential. Am I in alignment? Am I building something real, or just avoiding what's difficult? These are not abstract thoughts for him. This is a strategy. He builds structure. He eliminates distractions. He gives attention only to what strengthens him. He achieves a clarity that most men never touch. because they never pause long enough to face themselves. He is not lost. He is listening. He is not confused. He is recalibrating. He is not idle. He is building, slowly, consistently, purposefully. For him, purpose is not something you find. It is something you create, one disciplined act at a time, one quiet hour at a time, one difficult decision at a time. And with every piece he adds from within, he needs less from the outside. He doesn't want to be visible. He wants to be solid. Because when a man builds from purpose, not from pressure, he cannot be stopped. And when you meet such a man, you'll know it. Not by his words, but by what he does when nobody is there. 5. Building emotional discipline. He does not lose control. He does not run away. He does not push his emotions onto others, expecting them to solve what is his to handle. When life brings the storm, and it always does, he doesn't panic. He breathes. He doesn't wait for support or comfort. He becomes calm himself, not by pretending that everything is okay, but by learning how to sit with discomfort without flinching. Today's world tells men either to suppress or to explode. He does neither. He trains. Because emotional discipline is not about being numb, it is about being ready. He does not raise his voice just to be heard. He does not fall apart when plans go wrong. He stays grounded, takes the weight, and still moves forward. That is what sets him apart. It's not that he feels less, it's that his emotions don't govern him. He owns them. He observes their patterns. He breaks their control, one response at a time. Most men never reach this point because there's always someone to comfort them, to shift the blame, to catch their fall. But the man who walks alone, he has no one to run to. So he faces it, alone. And that's where true growth begins. When he feels the heat of reaction rising, he doesn't act. He watches. When anger tries to take over, he studies it. When hurt comes, he processes it, not with chaos, but with clarity. Because strength is not about how loud you are, it's about what you carry without falling apart. He carries his own weight, quietly, without excuses, without drama. And with every trial, his balance gets sharper. He reacts less, he responds better. He becomes less emotional, more aware. Not because his problems disappeared, but because he became larger than them. Seneca once wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." For him, that is not just wisdom, it is training. It is what he lives, especially when no one is watching. When there's no one to calm him, no one to support or explain things for him, he takes that role himself. He becomes calm. He becomes the clarity. Not for the sake of appearing strong, but because fragility is no longer an option. He knows emotional discipline is not a natural gift. It is a habit, a decision, a war fought within. And he fights that battle daily because he understands that losing it even once could cost too much. He doesn't blame society, people, or situations. He builds systems. He sets limits. He removes triggers that waste his energy. And when the world throws chaos at his door, he doesn't answer with more noise. He answers with focus. Because he has already done the hard work. Quietly, without reward, without applause. That is why people trust him. That is why they follow him. Not because he shouts, but because he doesn't fall. This kind of man doesn't talk about strength. He radiates it. He does not need to prove he's in control. His energy says it all. His strength comes from the pauses he takes, the breath he holds, and the decisions he makes when emotions try to pull him off track. His power is not denial, it is awareness with discipline. He's not perfect, but he's precise, not flawless, but focused. And every single day he sharpens that skill, to feel deeply, yet choose wisely. That is real control. That is real freedom. That is how you become the kind of man no emotion can overpower. 6. Becoming truly stoic. He does not panic when things go wrong. He does not lose himself in praise, nor collapse under blame. He does not let success make him arrogant or failure make him weak. For him, real control is not only about what he does, but about how he responds. He does not wait for life to be fair. He prepares for the day it won't be. That is what makes him truly stoic. Not because he is emotionless, but because he does not allow emotions to rule over him. He feels everything, but he decides which feelings to honor and which to let go. That is not suppression, that is power. He does not chase certainty. He accepts life's unpredictability and brings order through his choices. He does not beg for results. He lives by principles. And when life pushes him to the edge, he does not collapse. He becomes still. Because a man trained in discipline does not need everything to be perfect in order to stay calm. He builds stability from within. That is what separates him. Not comfort, not privilege, but the clarity born out of consistent practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is not a nice quote to read. It is a rule to live by. He does not waste time trying to control the market, other people's opinions, or what tomorrow may bring. He controls only what is his thoughts, his reactions, his habits. And that is why he becomes the most grounded presence in any room. Not because he raises his voice, but because he doesn't need to. He does not define his value by applause. He does not need agreement to believe he is on the right path. He doesn't change to fit into someone else's definition of success. He builds his own standards. A man like that cannot be manipulated, because he does not play the emotional games others are stuck in. He does not react to insults. He does not beg to be accepted. He does not break when pressure rises. His strength does not come from being noticed. It comes from being centered. Seneca once said, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be." That contentment is not laziness. It is not giving up. It is standing firm while the world burns and choosing not to scream. It is watching the storm come and still knowing you will stand. Because you have prepared in silence. Because you have trained when nobody was watching. Because you stopped expecting the world to behave. You started building your strength regardless of what it throws at you. He does not fear losing, because he does not cling. He does not chase status because he has stopped seeking validation. He does not fear being alone because solitude has made him strong. While others fight to control the world, he focuses on mastering himself. While others defend their emotions, he chooses logic. While others give up when life says no, he quietly rebuilds and continues. This is Stoicism. Not some theory to admire, but a code to live by. A path meant not for comfort, but for clarity. Not to please others, but to stay true to yourself. He walks quietly, he thinks with depth, he acts with intention. And when life tries to shake him, it finds no weak spot. Because he has already walked through the noise, already sharpened his discipline, already removed everything unnecessary. What remains is what no one can take away. A man who controls himself. Not perfect, not invincible, but unmoved by anything outside. That is what it truly means to be stoic. 7. Forming deeper connections from wholeness. He does not enter into a relationship to feel complete. He is already whole. He does not need someone else to fix him, to validate him, or to give him meaning. That is exactly why his love comes from strength, not from fear. Most men seek relationships as a support system. He chooses them with awareness. He is not running from silence. He has made peace with it. He does not chase company to avoid loneliness. He has already mastered solitude. And that is why his relationships go deeper, not out of need, but out of clarity. When you don't need someone, you are able to see them for who they truly are. And when you see clearly, you choose wisely. He does not look for romance to fill emotional gaps. He does not cling when the future is uncertain. He does not allow emotional chaos just to feel wanted. He doesn't act. He shows up as he is, grounded, steady, and authentic. This honesty can scare those who are used to games, but it attracts those who are looking for something real. His boundaries are strong. His expectations are clear, not because he lacks emotion, but because he knows the price of peace, and he will not sacrifice it for superficial attraction or temporary attention. He has already paid the cost of loving without healing. So now, before he connects, he makes sure the connection is not draining his energy, his purpose, or his identity. Seneca said, "A wise man is content with himself first." He has built his life on this truth. He does not walk into a room hoping to be chosen. He chooses. And if something doesn't feel aligned, he exits, without drama, without resentment, just with clarity. His self-worth is not dependent on someone else's opinion. He has earned it through years of reflection and growth. So when someone enters his life, he is not asking, "Will they love me?" He is asking, "Can we grow together without losing ourselves?" He does not confuse attention with connection. He does not mistake passion for compatibility. He knows that real intimacy is not created in emotional chaos. It is born in inner calm. Many relationships collapse because two incomplete people try to complete each other. He will not repeat that pattern. He knows his values, he knows his direction, and if someone is aligned, they are welcome to walk beside him, not ahead, not behind, but as equals. If not, he lets go gracefully. No guilt, no regret. He does not get lost in emotions because he has not lost himself. He listens more than he speaks. He watches more than he reacts. He does not manipulate. He does not beg. He simply observes. And if the energy no longer aligns, he steps away, not to punish, but to protect his space. Not all connections are meant to last, but every connection teaches. And because he is not desperate, he is free to learn and move forward without losing his balance. This is why he is rare. In a world addicted to chasing, proving, and pleasing, he stands still, rooted, hard to impress, slow to attach. But when he does connect, it is real. It is intentional. It comes from strength, not emptiness. And strength doesn't demand. It chooses quietly, firmly, powerfully. He doesn't need a crowd. He just needs one who truly sees him. Not for the surface, but for the man he has become through stillness. That kind of bond doesn't fade, because it is not built on need. It is built on clarity. And that is what makes it truly unbreakable. Solitude is not a weakness. It is a mirror, a weapon, a place of transformation. A man who chooses to walk alone, not out of anger, but with intention, discovers a kind of strength that most people will never access. He becomes mentally focused, emotionally steady, and crystal clear about what truly matters. While many look to others to feel worthy, he creates value from within. While the world fears silence, he uses it to define his purpose. The Stoic path is not meant to be followed blindly. It is meant to be practiced daily. Control your emotions. Respond with reason, not impulse. Train your mind to stay firm when comfort calls. That is how you develop a presence that does not shake under pressure. In solitude, you learn to rely on yourself. And through that self-reliance, you gain freedom. Freedom from needing approval, attention, or rescue. So let this not be just another video you watched and forgot. Let this be the turning point in how you think, how you act, and how you carry yourself every day. I invite you to share your own journey. Have you ever chosen solitude? What did it reveal to you about your strength, your values, or your calling? Drop your thoughts in the comments. You never know. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to find their own path.